Welcome to this parts presentation. My name is Randy Clemens. I'll be your host for this presentation today. I'm also the author and creator of Parts. A little bit about Parts. Parts has now been around for a little bit more than 10 years. It was first released to the public in 2023. However, it's been in use since about 2011 when I started using it myself. And in 2013, it was released and shared with public after many users persuaded me to market the product. Anyway, stick around and we'll take a look at why Parts has become the most popular database, turnkey database library for Altium worldwide, with now over 150 customers in more than a dozen countries. I'd just like to do a quick overview of some of the features in Parts before I get into demonstrating the tool. Parts is basically a library maintenance tool. It helps you with supply chain management. You can use Excel to import and export data into the database very quickly. You can use it to clean up your BOMs. The Parts front end can be used with access databases for local network drives and for local area network drives. It's company network drives. Or it can be hosted on MySQL. It can be hosted locally on a company network drive, or it can be hosted remotely in the cloud. MySQL hosted in a cloud service like Amazon Web Services can support multiple users, and those are remote users from pretty much anywhere in the world that can collaborate together. Also, you can easily migrate your library if you'd like to Altium's 365 managed components. That might not be as efficient as using the Parts front end, but it's certainly another way to use the Parts front end to simplify building a high quality library in managed components. Also, Parts supports version control using Git and SVN via Tortoise integration. What is Parts? Parts is a graphical user front end for Microsoft Access and MySQL database libraries. It's been optimized for Altium database libraries. It supports fast import and export to Altium, fast load data for MySQL. Parts supports multiple local and remote users. Its drag and drop of parametric data for part numbers and parts description is one of the features that's made Parts very popular. It can be used to quickly find footprints and symbols for new designs. It has intelligent filtering and sorting. It can be used to quickly create similar parts using make-like, or clone parts can be done quite simply. We'll demonstrate these features in the Parts front end in just a moment. Also, Parts is very scalable by design. You can start out with a simple Microsoft Access database and migrate that very easily using the Parts front end to a MySQL database that's hosted on either a company network drive or hosted in the cloud. And Parts supports real-time multiple users locally or remotely on either company network drive or in a remote hosted cloud service. Anyway, let's get into looking at some of the Parts features. Parts front end was designed using Microsoft Access. Access is the most popular library front end tool that's ever been created for interfacing with database libraries. It's been around for probably about 30 years now and will probably be around for a long time to come. Anyway, the Parts front end was created using an access split form. So you have a single record up here in the top, and you can have multiple records down below. For example, when we select a record in the bottom, you can see it comes into view in the top. However, all the information is displayed in the top for the record, so we don't have any additional scrolling around to look at the record. One of the most popular features in Parts is the ability to populate all the parametric data without having to do any manual typing or editing. For example, let's go over to DigiKey for a moment, and we have a supplier link right here with a button that will take us to either Mouser or DigiKey. Let me see if I can find a DigiKey site part. Here we go. Here's a DigiKey capacitor. And notice that once we're over at DigiKey, if we were starting a new record, we could select the new button, and over at the DigiKey site, we would simply select Control A on our keyboard to highlight all of the text in our browser window, and then we could drag and drop that to the hat, and that would fill in our parametric data for us. No typing required. And if we want to get the data sheet, we need to drag that over separately. And then in cases where you have multiple choices for tape, cut tape, or digireel, you need to decide which one of those you want and copy that and paste that in. And anyway, that's all you would need to do to get your parametric data. But let's look at this again. Only this time we'll delete that record, and what we're going to do is use make like. We're going to reuse our footprint and symbol because after all we already have a footprint, a symbol for a capacitor, and we have footprints for our 0402 parts, so we don't need to make those again. So we'll select make like, and over at DigiKey we select Control A in our browser, drag and drop it to the hat, and we would fill in our parametric data. Drag over the data sheet, choose which one of these parts that you would like, cut tape, digireel, or whatever, hit save. So you can see here we've created a part. It's 30,026, and in our libraries panel we could simply refresh, and there's 30,026 right there, and we can place that. So let's do that one more time, maybe with a resistor. I'm going to show what we can do to make a very similar part. So let's say that we start out with a 100k ohm resistor in our library for 0402, and we know we would like to create a 200k. Well, we could select the parts description right over here, and that would highlight all of this, or you could do a partial highlighting if you like that. But for now, let's just select the part description, and then down below we'll go an octopart search for the selected part description or part number. Since I've selected the part description, the search will be by description. And you can see there we are, we've got a search done by description. But because we wanted a 200k ohm resistor, we'll change that to 200k. After we've located our 200k, for example over at Mauser, we can select make like in the parts front end using the same footprint and symbol again. In the Mauser, we'll hit Control A, drag and drop to the hat. If you want the data sheet, probably don't really care about having a data sheet for this resistor, but if you did, you can drag and drop that over, hit save. Unlike at DigiKey, Mauser only has one supplier part number, so we don't have to choose between it. So I'm actually simplified that, and we were able to populate the number straight away. Again, we can hit refresh in our libraries panel, and we're ready to replace our 200k ohm resistor. The parts front end can also be used to simplify finding footprints and symbols, referred to as models. So under the Models tab, select that, and you can go to all of the most popular search sites. For example, you could go to Snap EDA, and you could look for any footprints or symbols that might be available there. So here we can see there's footprints, a symbol available, data sheets available, 3D model was available. We could try search engine, and you can see here that not available. PCB libraries, not available. Ultra Librarian. Alright, so we got some over at Ultra Librarian. We could download those and use those footprints and symbols if we like. And if we looked over at Octopart, I'm not seeing any footprints and symbols right away here. Just take a quick look down through the sheet. I don't believe I see any there. But also in the parts front end, we could have just as easily selected open all library sources by clicking on this link here, and that would have opened all all of them at the same time, or as quickly as possible anyway. Let me close that just to demonstrate that again. So we'll close all the other tabs, and I'll just go to my home page, and we'll select open all the library sources for this part. So we can see very quickly we've gone to Ultra Librarian. There's some footprints there. Search engine, PCB libraries, SnapCAD, and OctoPart. Let's just try that maybe one more part. Let's try this diode. See what we might get there. So SnapCAD looks like they have a footprint symbol for the diode. Search engine has it. We've got one over at UltraCAD. And back at OctoPart, there's our CAD models right here. Okay, so we could download those. And also sometimes you might start at OctoPart and you can determine whether or not you can find parts over at Search Engine or at SnapEday or UltraCAD. But they won't tell you whether or not the part's available at PCB libraries, which is one of my favorites personally. I like to use PCB libraries to make very high quality consistent parts. You can also use Altium's built-in footprint wizard if you like, but if you ever used this tool, you'll know it's pretty nice and pretty quick. Okay, anyway, that's how you can use the parts to very quickly create and find models. Okay, just a quick overview of the main features on the main menu bar. Obviously, we can create new records, and we can delete the record if we like. So I've just created one. Then we can use make like, which I've demonstrated previously. If we select this view, it can toggle us between the view and the edit mode. Notice the red square here now. That means that you can't accidentally type data in the parts front end right now. So I'm clicking on my keyboard and nothing's happening here. If I need to edit that, I would select edit and then I can edit it. Also built into the parts front end is a lot of cleanup that cleans up any characters coming from the websites like carriage returns, non-breaking white spaces, and troublesome print characters. Notice that when I hit save, all the extra characters have been cleaned up, whether they're extra characters at the end or the beginning, or whether they're carriage return characters, like I'll hit enter here. I'll hit control enter just to force the carriage return down. But there I've got some extra carriage returns in there. And then when we hit save, it's all cleaned up and put back into place. So also when we hit save, it also verifies the current record if that option was selected. So it's one of our save options is that we can verify library files and references with save. Okay, so these are our save options, and these are configuration options up here. We'll look at those in more detail in another video. But it also has a very intelligent filter, with a smart sort. And it has some, it comes with 3 basic drop downs, which is more than enough, but you can select any of those. And it comes preset with some shortcuts here. So for example, if we wanted to search by description, we could hit our description, and also a couple of wildcards have been put in here to help speed up choosing something. So like we might put in here 1K. I mean, we didn't even say it was a resistor or whatever it was. Put another asterisk in front of it. But we use the standard wildcard searches. So here we can see we found our 1K ohm parts. But we might have, went in there and put in resistor, or start with resistor at least, and we would have gotten all of our resistors. And we could have hit this button in the middle here again, which will put the cursor in between 2 asterisks, and we could type in like 1K, and that quickly filter us down. But anyway, let's look at using these shortcuts along here. We could hit resistor, for example, and it just goes ahead and populates the resistor part as part type for the resistor, which is our part type field, and this is our subtype field. And then we chose a footprint. Well, we could choose a different footprint, hit apply, and that would show us any parts that we have that are 0603s. Or if we looked at our 0805s, this is a very limited database. I just have 22 parts in it for a sample because I want users to be able to put their own parts in there. And the demo has a 100 part limit on it, so we'll give users plenty of opportunity to create some of their own sample parts. Looking back at the 0402, we have a few of 0402s in there. So notice that it also sorts by value, and same thing with capacitors. They're sorted by value. Okay, and also inductors. This is kind of a bonus feature in the parts front end because in Altium, if you try to search on the value field for inductors, that it doesn't sort. It does sort in Altium for capacitors and resistors. However, the value field, which I don't have displayed over here, but if we were to select the value column, place it there. Let me move it over a little bit more. I usually like to keep value right over here myself. I like to go part ID value. But anyway, in Altium, this will appear to sort only because it's just a very small field. But if there were any other parts in here that had microfarad, nanofarad, if you've ever played with, it doesn't properly sort out. But capacitors and inductors will sort by value properly in Altium. So resistors. I'm just filtering up ahead there. Also, you can enable column grouping and organize your view a little bit more in Altium. I won't go into that. It's a little bit beyond this overview video that I'm trying to do right now. We might cover that in another video. Anyway, back to the parts front end. So we have this, what I call intelligent sort and filtering. And also, after we've filtered something, if we like, we can export the results out to an Excel spreadsheet. So for example here, we can acquire the models also if we wanted. That means we just grab the footprints and symbols and put them in a folder. I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll put them on my desktop. So there's the Excel spreadsheet. That could be imported into another parts compatible database. And looking on our desktop, there's our acquired parts. So we have our footprints and symbols. We have a least and a nominal footprint there. And for the symbol, we have our inductor symbol. Okay. So getting back into the parts front end again. I put my wallpaper back up there. Use Altium for wallpaper. Makes good wallpaper. Back in the parts front end. Okay, so a few other features. See, we've looked at what verify file. Well, verify files, it just simply goes down through here, and if you have any data sheets that are stored locally or any CAD models, and it verifies your libraries are at the library paths listed in the database, and it verifies the library references. For example, we hit verify. Of course, it's done pretty quickly because it's a very small 22-piece record set. We'll look at some bigger databases here in a minute. But let's make an example. Like here, we'll put inductor X. So that's probably not a real library reference. So we'll see when we hit save, it tells us straight away that this reference is not found in the library file. But what was found in the file was inductor, and would you like to change it? So you can say yes, and it could change it. Let's look at a case where we have a library file that doesn't exist. So we've just made a fictitious library file. We hit save. It tells us the symbol's not found. And if we wanted, we could hit this button to select the part or the symbol. And if we start chopping our characters back, we'll see right away that we do have a inductor symbol right there. We can select that and update. Okay, so it's a little enough about probably verify files for now. Also, there is an option, if you like, that you can create a library report if that's enabled. So let's see, we can do a librarian feature. Let's go back there again and see what happened. Verify files. Um, So in this particular case, I don't have a user-defined field called library report yet. So let's make that. For example, the parts does have user-defined fields over here on the far right side. You can have up to 15 user-defined fields. So let's look at an example of creating one. I'm going to make the one for library report, which is kind of a special one. You can make up your own field names if you like, but library report has a special property for us if that one's used. So after hitting apply, the field's been added to the backend database, the library report field, and now under verify libraries we can check that and we can hit verify. Of course, there was no discrepancies, so there's nothing shown over there, but let's put a couple of discrepancies in here. We'll do that, and maybe we'll pick another part. Pick something else, another capacitor, make a couple bad footprint names or something here. And if we verify again, we'll see we're getting warned that we got duplicates. That's to be expected. We created some duplicates during the demo. But anyway, we want to run it with a verify report on. And you can see now that the verify report has some data in it, and it's been filtered down to the records that have issues. So these two records have problems. All we need to do to further investigate those is hit save, and it'll highlight the field that has an issue, and then we can correct that. So we can see if we hit save now, the symbol's been fixed, and we need to fix an issue with the that, and we can fix that because the tool has read the library file and it sees that there is a cap in there, but without the S's on it. So we'll just go ahead and change that. We're still getting a warning that we got a duplicate part. So let's hit save once, and we can see that our duplicate parts are listed down below. They're filtered here. It's this highest number that was the last one created, which is another nice feature about using a numeric ID. We can very quickly determine which record was last created, so I'll just delete that one. So now you can see when you hit save, there's no issues found. And notice that we're still in a filtered state right now, but if we want to unfilter the records, we could just select the show all button, and that would show all the records. All right, so we already looked previously at how to use the models. Also included in parts is some tools. These tools allow you to export the database quickly out to Excel or import it from Excel. You can also import some library files, and then there's some scripts that you can create for MySQL to generate the tables and schema for migration to SQL, and then you can export the data out of the parts front end for MySQL, and then you can load the data into the MySQL database. So transitioning or moving from an Access database to a MySQL database can be done in less than 15 minutes. It's very quick and easy. You can also create a backup of parts. Select the backup, and you can, if you're using an Access database, you can also compact the database. That needs to be done occasionally. And also notice throughout parts there's always help available. You can select the help button, and it'll take you straight away to where the help is, and you can find additional help and explanations about using features. Like here you'll see a link to Microsoft about compacting a database and why you would want to compact a database. But built into parts is an automatic warning that the database is getting bloated, and that'll pop up in the situations when the database is getting bloated and alert you that you might want to come in and do a compact and a backup of your database. There's also an option to create backups daily. That's just dumping the database out to Excel spreadsheets every day. And the last one of the day will be the the last one in your backups folder for the day. For example, if you were to do 2 backups in the same day, you would overwrite the previous backup earlier this morning with the last one today. So that means that if you go and look in the backups folder, the last one saved yesterday will be the last one for yesterday, etc. And the last one saved today will be the last time you close the parts front end, because these backups are created when you close the parts front end. Of course, you can always run an immediate backup anytime you want just by selecting backup. The Explore button just allows you to choose to explore using a file explorer where you've installed your database, your footprints, your symbols, CAD models, things associated with your library. And then you can have the front end in a separate folder. So here I have my parts front end, and then I had the parts back end. And that's because when you have multiple users, all the users will have a copy of the parts front end on their local machines, while the parts back end would be on a company network drive or on a cloud hosted service. And then again, there was configuration options. We won't go into all those today, but I do appreciate you taking time to look at the parts features with me today. And I'll leave a download link below, taking you over to PCBparts.blogspot.com, where you can find a copy of parts to download and evaluate for yourself. Thanks again, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video.